All right, we are back here on the podcast, getting ready to preview the college football playoff here. Join me today, great friend of the podcast, covers college football for Sporting News. Bill Bender is back with us. Bill, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here. And I have to say, I was more like in tune with the college football season this year in terms of keeping up with the storylines. There was a lot of crazy with the playoff going on back and forth. So, what was your initial reaction to this field that we got on the seventh?
No, that they got it wrong, that they didn't put Notre Dame in. Like, Notre Dame should have been in, and I've said it all week. I'm not going to back down from that opinion. They were ahead of Miami. So, like, whatever justification you want to, yeah, Miami beat them head-to-head, and that's fine. And you can use that. You should have used it the week before. It was kind of wrong what they did to Notre Dame. I think they should have been in the playoff ahead of Alabama. Alabama lost the SEC championship game. Alabama had 3 losses. Alabama didn't look like a very good team in the SEC championship game either. So how Notre Dame responded to it, I guess that's up for debate. But, yeah, they should have been in the playoff, and you're leaving a national championship caliber team out of the field and raises serious questions.
Yeah, it's a very good question, the Notre Dame situation here, because I do think we'll get back to their response I made here, but like the thing that jumps out to me is like the Alabama of it all, because obviously they did not look great in November. They struggled to get by teams like South Carolina and Auburn. They lose to Oklahoma. They get negative rushing yards in the SEC championship game. Don't drop it all in the rankings, while BYU in the Big 12 game loses the same team, drops 3 spots. So, like, it makes you wonder here, like, is there an ulterior motivation in terms of, like, maybe they want to protect the SEC championship game and Alabama doesn't get penalized for a loss where other schools would have?
I mean, they still want to protect the conference championship games. That was one message. The other one probably is that they want to protect this enterprise with shield the conference championship games, protect the head-to-head, protect the ACC on some level too, because I don't think the committee, I don't think any of us anticipated that a 5-loss conference champion would win any of the Power 4 conferences. So they got to fix those tiebreakers. That's another, I don't know if it's a quick, easy fix, but it's another, almost, in my opinion, mandatory fix for the committee or the ACC moving forward, because that threw a wrench into everything. I don't think anybody expected it, but that's where we're at. And I think, so I'll put it to you this way, Mike. It had Virginia, Duke. I think Miami would have not made the playoff, and I think Notre Dame would have. And I don't know if you can prove or disprove that, but that's just the opinion I have.
It certainly feels that way in terms of the situation with the ACC, because I feel like the thing it points out here, I think Notre Dame was right about this, and other people were, it's like, why are we doing the weekly rankings if the entire process, Notre Dame's ahead of Miami, and then neither one plays and you flip them at the last minute? Like, to me, that feels pointless.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happened. So I don't have a problem with them putting Miami over Notre Dame. I have a problem with them flipping them based on what? What was the metric that we based it on Sunday after they put Notre Dame ahead of them on Tuesday? So everything that Bavak was saying from Notre Dame over the last week or so, every single thing he says has some merit. Like, they should feel upset. And like I said, how they handled it by skipping a bowl game, whether or not that does any good, we can debate that. I'm not sure it does, because Notre Dame was the easiest one to leave out and still justify that your playoff product is sound and works. I know that's kind of a weird answer, but that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah, it also speaks to the whole situation. You brought the ACC thing up here where, you have the possibility that Miami's probably the best team in the league all year, loses out on being in the game because the ACC title game is a tiebreaker. A 7-5 Duke team wins it, gets left out for 2 group of 5 teams, and the committee basically did the ACC a solid by getting Miami in there with Notre Dame. You can probably use that head-to-head as a justification, but to me, I think the answer is simple. I think the ACC has this very wrong the way they do this year. I feel like for all these leagues, like, if you have a massive pile-up tie, like, and you want to ensure your best teams get the spotlight, this honestly, the tiebreaker should be after head-to-head. Just whoever's highest in the rankings gets in the game.
Probably. I mean, in this case, that works. And some other... Now, we've tried this before, and it created a lot of controversy in the Big 12 back when Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Texas did this. They all had remarkable one-loss seasons, and they took the highest-ranked team to the championship game to go play Tim Tebow-led Florida, and Oklahoma was that team, and Oklahoma got beat pretty good. So, I mean, it's not a perfect setup, but in this case, you're right. It would have been a much more manageable way to pass it off. And they got too late because you can't change in the middle of the season. And this is not Duke's fault. Kind of Duke's fault for losing 3 non-conference games, but it's not their fault for going out with the rules presented and winning the ACC championship at the time.
Yeah, I would agree with that here. And to wrap up the sort of wrap up your Notre Dame, you talked about here like how they started a big trend where they said, we're not playing bowl games. And then I think you have about like 8 or 9 other teams decline bowl games where you have now like got to the point where you have a couple 5 and 7 teams and we had to have a rematch from conference play for I think I forget which group of 5 league it was that we need to do that to fill the bowls out here. Is Notre Dame saying, like we don't care about bowls, we only want to be in the playoff? You think that's the start of the end of the bowl system in your opinion?
No, I think they're taking I think this is more about, whether it's factual or not, this is more about Notre Dame versus ESPN and being mad at ESPN. And I don't know if that should be true or the networks are trying to deliberately leave people out of playoffs. But I think this is a direct, all right, you want to leave us out of your playoff? Well, we won't play in your Pop-Tart school. Will it start a trend? I doubt it, because there's too many college seniors that want to play in their last game and that kind of thing. And, that's the other side of this. That now if those seniors were on board with this protest and they're angry and they don't want to go play one last time, that's fair too. It's their game. But that's all part of this decision. Notre Dame made it. It's been met. I get it. But, the more I think about it, you got to think about it from a player's perspective too. Not everybody in that locker room didn't want to play in a bowl game.
Yeah, it was majority rule at that point, pretty much. And 2 other, the next thing I want to touch on real quick before we go back to the playoff teams here is the crazy coaching carousel we have here. And I'm going to leave Michigan out of it. That's a whole separate issue. But, whether it is, Penn State, UCLA, all these teams firing their coaches in season, the Lane Kiffin drama where he's basically angling with pick between LSU and Florida for about the whole month of November, and then puts out a passive-aggressive statement that he's mad that Ole Miss won't let him coach in the playoff. What would you take on this coaching carousel this year? Because this was one of the craziest I've ever remembered.
Well, I mean, it's dictated by the calendar. Lane Kiffin, he left, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me that he left for LSU. And if it's the circumstances, I didn't like that he hijacked rivalry week, and it became the lead storyline. Will he or won't he? I'm sure he had a case to coach in the playoff, but I don't blame Ole Miss. And in general, this has been a wild college football carousel because the values have changed. Now it's all about the playoff. If you don't make the playoff, it's not a successful season anymore. I don't think that's necessarily right. I think Penn State, for example, made a pretty hasty decision to get rid of James Franklin, and it shows. But I guess I don't. The question is what? That it was a wild coaching carousel. It was crazy, and there's room for a little bit more craziness to come. But when you have that number's at 30 and could go higher depending on where Michigan goes after the Sharon Moore incident this week.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that makes you wonder here. Now, the bar is feels like now is a lot of these big teams. If we're not in contention for the playoff, we're going to pull the ripcord earlier and get started on a coaching search earlier, which I think you said is a function of the calendar. Yeah,
I mean, James Franklin, you could say that was a bad decision in hindsight, but I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a long-winded way, Mike, that they got to Matt Campbell, and I think Matt Campbell will do the same, if not better, than James Franklin at Penn State. The calendar, you see these schools getting a head start on it. Now we're so late in the cycle, pushing up closer to the portal opening, and who knows where that's going to go. That's the reason why Lane Kiffin left when he did, and this is the reason why, potentially, depending on what happens at Michigan, by the time we publish this, Kalen DeBoer could leave Alabama for Michigan. I don't think he'll do it before the playoff, but he's probably one of the lead candidates there, Jed Fish and Kenny Dillingham among the others. So Michigan will have a coach, and he's going to leave another school. and that's going to push that number over 30 for the season.
Yep. Let's go on the field now. I think we got enough of the off the field stuff.
That'd be great. Yeah, yeah. Let's get on the field, please. Yes, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll go to Indiana here because this is probably the craziest story of the season here. Because like we also did last year where Kurt Signetti comes in, has the big year, they lose in the playoffs. You say, okay, maybe it's a one-off. They're undefeated. They win the Big Ten. Kurt Signetti turns down Penn State essentially, says, I will stay in Indiana and built what I've done here. So like, what's it of what we saw out of Indiana this year?
Amazing. Amazing stuff from Kurt Signetti, because I'm one of those guys that continues to be like, oh, just wait till they go play at Iowa and they win, or wait till they go play Ohio State or Oregon or at Penn State and they win in all these places. It's one of the most remarkable coaching jobs maybe ever. I think Urban Meyer said that Saturday after the Big Ten championship game, and the more you think about it, the more you believe it. It's been a wonderful job, and he continues to do it. He continues to do it at a high level. They might have the Heisman Trophy winner. They're the only undefeated team in the FBS. They're the number one seed. And Mike, what we'll do is we'll doubt whoever they play in the playoffs. You know, when they play that 8-9 winner, Oklahoma, Alabama, we'll say, well, they'll never beat Alabama or Oklahoma. And then the next one, they'll never beat Oregon again. And then they'll never beat Georgia or Ohio State or whoever comes out of the bottom side. So it is really, in all my years of covering college football, never seen anything like that, and that's a tribute to Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let's go into some of these first-round playoff matchups here, because we have, obviously, the two group of 5 games. James Madison against Oregon, which I think most are not expecting to be close. You have the Tulane Ole Miss. They played early in the season, but now you have the drama of Lane Kiffin not being there and the new coach like starting his tenure at the playoff game. What do you think about these two games?
Well, I don't think James Madison, Oregon is going to be particularly close at all. I think that's going to be a blowout. And, you know, that's going to be the next gripe, is we're going to watch James Madison. That's not taking away from what Wayne Knight and Alonzo Barrett and Bob Chesney have accomplished. It's just you're going out to the stadium against that front and that running game. It's going to be trouble. And then Ole Miss versus Tulane rematch. I think Tulane will be more competitive in that one. So, you know, John Summerall's juggling 2 jobs. They're going to have to stop the run a little bit better than last time. Presence, we're going to find out how much that matters, and then you get that one.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones here. We got the Alabama-Oklahoma game, which obviously these 2 teams played last month. Oklahoma won the game. It probably got them into the playoff in the first place. Alabama's been limping down the stretch here. We saw how they played the SEC championship game. Like, I feel like the logic would say, like, based on how they're playing, like, would probably go Oklahoma, but like this might be, I think, the lowest scoring game of the round.
You're right. I think it'll be a little bit of a defensive slugfest, and they'll both get after each other. But you know, it's everything we just talked about with Alabama. These last 2 losses against Oklahoma, what happened? They turned the ball over. They struggled with turnovers. They struggled with holding on to the football. They couldn't run the football, and that led to these road losses. So I picked Alabama to win. I don't feel great about it. Oklahoma hasn't played well on offense either, and it's going to be tough for Alabama to go in on the road and win. And you have this added distraction of, you know, the Michigan thing with Kalen DeBoer. That's going to loom. Somebody's going to ask him about it, and we'll see what he says. But despite all of those things, maybe it's just conditioned to pick Alabama over the years. I got the Crimson Tide winning the football game.
Yeah, interesting too, because like this is also a spot where like Ty Simpson, was in the Heisman mix for a while until probably that last month of the season. Now he gets like this rematch against a team that he didn't do too well against the first time. So see if he learned anything from the first experience with the Sooners.
Yeah, they'll have to protect him better, and they'll have to throw the ball a little bit. And Oklahoma's really good at home under Brent Venables. It is an exciting matchup, though, and that's a good way. I believe that's the Friday night game, correct? That'd be a good way to start this playoff.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last game here, the we beat Notre Dame game between Miami and Texas A&M. So I think that's an interesting spot here. Miami, feel like the team that everybody say, should they have been in the playoff? Then they get in, they win 2 games. You wouldn't be surprised.
Correct. That's a great call, Mike. They, their edge rush is really good. Carson Beck hasn't turned the ball over. They looked pretty sharp in November after that SMU loss, and we questioned their value, much like Alabama. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Alabama and Miami both won their games after we spent this whole time saying they probably shouldn't be there. So, A&M at home, though, tough game. Marcel Reed playing well. See how he is able to throw the ball down the field against that Miami pass rush. And on the other side, like I said, can Carson Beck avoid these costly turnovers that cost them in the losses against Louisville and SMU, with Cassius Howe, Nagurski finalist, chasing him down. So, there's plenty to watch in that game, no doubt.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too. A&M has also been sitting there for a long time after that Texas loss, right after Thanksgiving. So, they're going to be stewing in that game for a couple of weeks. And, they're probably sitting here saying, we could have just won that one. We would have a bye. We wouldn't have to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. And this Miami team's more than capable of going in and winning the game. Of the four, I'm probably most excited to watch that one and see how both of those teams get after it.
Yeah, in terms of the whole bracket, I think it looks much more like a normal bracket compared to last year when they had the rule that conference champions had to be the top four seeds. I think that was a good adjustment they made to ensure you get both Indiana and Ohio State buys, and they both earned it. So, in terms of the path through the bracket here, who do you think has the best road to the final four and beyond?
Well, I mentioned, I think two games will make the bracket. Two potential matchups will determine everything, in my opinion. One of them is Oregon versus Texas Tech in the second round. I do think Oregon's going to win against James Madison. It sets up, Oregon kind of sleeping on them. Nobody's really said, hey, the Ducks will win the national championship under Stanley. I think they're capable of doing it. But Texas Tech and the Big 12, Jacob Rodriguez, just sweeping all these defensive awards. Can they win that football game? The second one's obviously Georgia, Ohio State. Because I think the winner of that game, when it materializes, if it materializes, I think it will win the national title. And that's doubting Indiana one more time on your podcast. So it's one more chance to look foolish. But Ohio State and Georgia have been waiting to play each other since that last one, and I think they'll play again.
Yeah, that whoever gets that Miami Texas A&M win, I believe it's Georgia, is in that path here. It's not a fun spot to be in.
No, not at all. So we'll see what happens. But the Buckeyes in Georgia's played really good football. They've won a lot of big games. Ohio State, obviously, with that defense, they played really poorly on offense. Lost to Indiana by 3. I also think Oregon and Texas Tech are capable of winning the national title. Those are the 5 teams I would circle for that.
Yeah, and I think the fun for everybody, I think in terms of the casualties, if you can get Indiana that final against either of those two teams on the other side, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's plenty of chances for that. And the title game will be in Miami. Indiana, Oregon, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Georgia, any of those games in any combination will be a lot of fun in the college football playoff championship game. And if Indiana got there, what a story it would be. The Hoosiers, like we said, all those reasons I ran down about how great of a season they've had. If they get to have a chance to win a national championship in year 2 under Kurt Signetti, they'd be one of the biggest, I don't even want to say Cinderella, just craziest stories in sports history.
Yeah, and I did have my bad. I had the bracket wrong. I had Ohio State, I forgot, was the 2. So they do get the Miami Texas A&M winner on New Year's Eve in the Cotton Bowl. So that'll be a wild way to end the 2025 year in college football before 26 starts.
Yeah, it'll be a fun matchup. Don't worry, I've had them kind of mixed and matched a little bit. You got to look at it twice. I've had to make a couple corrections along the way as well.
All right, Bill. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. If you want to keep up with your college football coverage over the Sporting News and follow you on social media, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, at Bill Bender 92 at SportingNews.com. Plenty of coverage over there coming over the next couple weeks here, and maybe you and I can catch up for the title game or something. That'd be great.
That'd be a lot of fun, Bill. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Mike.